It's UofL Today on 93.9 The Ville. Here's your host, Mark Hebert.
Welcome to UofL Today with Mark Hebert. Glad you're joining us today. As we often try and tell those of you who listen in, you're going to be a little bit smarter. At least we hope you're going to be a little bit smarter after this 30-minute period than you are right now. And you'll learn a little something about the University of Louisville and all the great research, programming, staff, faculty, and students we have at the University of Louisville. So coming up on the show today, the University of Louisville has a slew of sustainability and environment-friendly efforts going on and recently received the elusive STARS Gold rating, which means UofL is the top-rated school in Kentucky in terms of environmental, social, and economic stewardship. The man who leads those efforts in sustainability will be here. His name is Justin Mogg, and he works at the University of Louisville. We'll talk to him a little bit later. And global health issues are being attacked by both faith-based and human rights organizations, but too often they have differing ideological approaches that hurt efforts to solve the global health problem. That's the view of the winner of the prestigious UofL Grawemeyer Award in Religion, who was recently in Louisville. We'll have an interview with Susan Holman. But first, the Kentucky legislature has some politically sensitive, high-profile issues to deal with this year. Bills dealing with revenge porn and sexting were debated, as was a bill to overhaul Kentucky's marriage licenses in the wake of the battle over same-sex marriages. Joanne Sweeney from UofL's Brandeis School of Law has been following those pieces of legislation and has some updates for us. Well, welcome back, Joanne. You've been on the show before. Welcome.
Thank you.
Glad you're here.
Me too.
All right. Well, let's talk about the two things that you have a particular interest in, which was the sexting bill was one of them. Let's talk about that to start.
I just want to clarify that I don't have particular interest in
sexting.
Or in revenge porn. That's not my particular interest. No, I do research on laws surrounding these things. So the two bills that I was keeping an eye on this legislative term was a sexting bill, which would create a different offense for teenagers who engage in sexting. Without this bill, the only criminal punishment available would be to charge them with child pornography, and that is both a state and federal crime. So this bill was intended to create a lesser offense, so they wouldn't be, sex offenders registering on a list.
We're talking about 14 and 15-year-olds and 16-year-old kids, right?
Yeah, and there's a lot of research on this, and it's a pretty common thing for teenagers to be doing nowadays.
Sexting you're talking about.
Yeah, not child pornography. Yeah, the sexting thing. So a lot of states have passed laws to create these kind of lesser penalties for them, or to not criminalize it at all. In Kentucky, the bill would have created the first offense would have just been an offense, so there wouldn't have been any jail time or anything like that. Subsequent offenses would carry a misdemeanor charge.
That's what the bill would have done.
That's what it would have done if it had,
right.
And we were hopeful.
So what happened to it?
Yeah, the last time we talked, we were hopeful because it had passed the Senate Judiciary Committee, but it then went to the House and died in the House Judiciary Committee. So it has not gone forward, and it is something that may be introduced in the future, but as of now, we are left with the child pornography laws as the only laws that we have.
So right now, if two 16-year-olds send naked pictures of each other back and forth on their text messages, and they get caught, what could happen to them?
They could be sent to prison, or it would be a juvenile prison, and they could be forced to register as sex offenders. And this has happened in other places.
Has it happened in Kentucky?
No.
That's
there's
good.
still that one case that's before the Kentucky Supreme Court, and it was argued over a year ago. And they haven't issued a decision yet. And they may have been waiting to see what happened with this bill. So I'm hoping,
probably were, yeah,
that they make a decision now to see, that there were arguments that this would violated the teenagers' freedom of expression, that it's disproportionate, and all those things. So hopefully the Kentucky Supreme Court issues a decision, because we are still kind of in this limbo place.
So the sexting bill dies in the House,
Yep.
Democratic-controlled House. And what about the revenge porn bill? Tell us what that would do, or would have done. It didn't pass.
Yeah.
So about that.
Did not pass. Spoiler alert. So the revenge porn bill is kind of like the other side of the coin, in that when two teenagers, even if they consensually share these images, they could be charged with child pornography. There is no criminal penalty for somebody taking sexually explicit images or videos of somebody else, adults, and putting it online or doing whatever. That's not a crime. So revenge porn is this, colloquial phrase for when usually an ex spouse, boyfriend, girlfriend, usually, I'll be honest, it's usually a man that does this, that takes consensually given images or video, sexually explicit images or video, and puts them online. And usually part of the revenge is then they usually send it to all the ex's contacts. Sometimes they've even contacted the employer. They harass them with it. They encourage others to harass them. There actually were websites created specifically for this purpose. So what this bill would do would make it a criminal offense, what it would have done.
Without permission from whoever
Yes.
the victim is here.
Correct. It was very much a consent. If you do it without the person's consent, yes.
What would you say to folks who say that's a First Amendment thing? If you're in a relationship and you agree to take naked videos of yourself having sex with your partner, and you break up and they wind up on the internet, or he's sending them to somebody 2 years from now, that's a First Amendment right. You consented to have the video made. Shouldn't be a crime. What would you say to folks?
I have so much to say to that. The first thing I would say is that consent goes to what you actually intended it to be for. If you intend to share it with one other person, that doesn't mean they can then get to distribute it to everybody. We give more protection to celebrities to not have their images put up in places they don't give permission to, because somehow, that is protected and that's their right to protect their image. So I think normal people deserve that, particularly when the intent for most of these cases is very clear that it is meant to humiliate, harass, sometimes get them fired from their jobs. That the First Amendment is not absolute. It never has been. In this situation, I would consider this what legal scholars would call low-value speech. And so I would say that a balancing of interests, I don't think it should be a defense. No.
We're talking with Joanne Sweeney from the UofL Brandeis School of Law, and we're talking about some of the issues that came up in the legislative session 2016 General Assembly in Frankfurt. On that particular bill, it died in the Senate, the Republican-controlled Senate. So the bottom line is, for what advice would you have for those who are in relationships right now and considering taking out the iPhone and getting some video of themselves doing interpersonal relationships with their loved one at this moment?
I mean, see, my opinion on that is I don't have a problem with people taking these photos or videos. I have a problem with the people purposely trying to ruin someone's life.
Right,
so those are the people I would
but
give
my point
advice
is there's
to.
no law
Right.
against it now.
They're not protected. You're
they're
right.
not protected. So,
You're right. So
would
it
you say
is
be
possible.
careful?
Yes, I mean I would say always be careful. But if I could admonish anyone, it would be the bad actor is not the person that took the video and shared it with their loved one. It is the person who then, in a fit of bitterness and revenge, tried to ruin that person's life. But yes, I think you're right. Be careful.
All right, we've got a couple minutes left here. There was also a bill that passed to make a singular marriage license that was kind of some fallout from the whole same-sex marriage and the marriage licenses that were issued to same-sex couples versus heterosexual couples. What became of that? What was that legislation, and what became of it?
It passed.
Yay.
It actually passed. It's actually on the governor's desk right now, so hopefully it gets signed. But basically, it was after the same-sex marriage case, Obergefell, in the U.S. Supreme Court, and then the Ken Davis issue about her not wanting to sign this marriage certificate. After Governor Bevin came into office, he issued an executive order removing clerks' names from the marriage certificates. And what this latest bill does is it creates a single form. There was an earlier bill that would have created a form for heterosexual couples and one for same-sex couples, and that died. And then the person who objected most strenuously, Senator McGarvey, proposed this bill, which would create one form that has three options: bride, groom, and then spouse. So it is one form for everybody. It passed both chambers and now is waiting for the governor to sign, and I sincerely hope he does.
And everybody agrees with this one because you had the Republican Senate approved it and the Democratic House approved it.
And apparently Senator McGarvey took it to the clerk's office and asked them if they liked it, and they were fine with it. So, I mean, everybody
It covers
likes
everybody.
it. Everybody likes it. I hope it gets signed.
All right, good deal. All right, Joanne Sweeney, thanks for being with us. Appreciate it. U of L's sustainability efforts recently received a gold rating from a national group that ranks such things. That means U of L is really good.
Really good.
Really good. The best in Kentucky, as a matter of fact. Justin Mogg is the assistant to the provost for sustainability initiatives at U of L, and he's here to talk about the gold rating and some of the other stuff that we do on U of L's campus. Well, welcome back, Justin.
Oh, thanks so much, Mark. It's really great to be back and talking about this really important stuff.
It is. This is kind of cool. What is a gold rating? What did we get it for, and who did we get it from? How about that? That sets you up perfect.
Yeah. So the first thing to lay down here is we're trying to measure our progress in sustainability. What is that? Well, it's not just recycling. It's sure in our environmental stewardship, but it's also our social and our economic impact. How do we gauge all that in one big measure? And the university has a strategic commitment to improving our performance in sustainability, so we got to measure it. And that's what this STARS framework is all about: sustainability tracking, assessment, and rating system. It was actually produced by a collaborative of universities, people like me trying to do this work, scholars and experts from around the world trying to change the way we do things on college campuses for the better. And UofL was a charter participant in developing this system. Way back in 2011, we were the 10th school in the entire nation to submit any data at all to this new and emerging STARS framework, which is now really well established, and it's managed by ASHE, the Association for the Advancement of Sustainability in Higher Ed, and we're a proud member of ASHE, and really glad that there is this gold standard for measuring progress, because it's important to measure what you want to manage, right? We submitted our data for the third time just earlier this year, and we were actually quite surprised by how well we'd advanced.
So what is a gold rating? Is it the top one you can get from this organization?
No. The next step for UofL is going to be to shoot towards platinum rating.
Oh, well, who has a platinum rating?
There's only one college
University?
in the entire world. Actually, it's a global program now that has a platinum rating. It's Colorado State University.
Okay.
But when we moved up into the gold rating, which basically means that actually you get a 65 out of 100 potential points, right?
Okay.
So it's a 65% bar that we've met. That puts us in a whole new elite category, though. There's only 95 schools in the world that are gold rated, and UofL is now joined that team. So it's really an important milestone for us.
And what kinds of things go into that rating? What things do we do on the University of Louisville campus that give us points toward this higher gold rating?
It's really comprehensive. In order to get this rating, I have to bug so many people on campus about all.
So you got to submit a lot of paperwork,
points,
but I mean,
right?
on the ground, what's the stuff on the ground that actually gets done?
It's everything from counting our service hours and how many student service hours, employee service hours we have, to our commitments to diversity and inclusion, to the social side of sustainability, right? To how are we investing our endowment, to all of the operational side of things. I mentioned recycling, what we do with our solid waste and composting, to transportation, buildings, infrastructure questions, all that sort of stuff. And then, are we planning for sustainability? Do we have plans going forward? And then, of course, what's the whole reason for the university to be here? Well, it's not just athletics, right? Mm-hmm. We're also here to teach and to study solutions for the future. So how are we integrating sustainability into our curriculum and our research agenda? It's all those things.
So it's a lot of stuff.
Oh, my gosh.
A lot of stuff goes into it. And last year we were rated what? It wasn't gold, but what was UofL?
Actually, it had been 3 years since we submitted data, and we were a silver-rated school at that time. So we actually bumped up our score from 58%, which is what we were in 2013, to now we're at 65.2. So we just squeaked past the bar, but it's an important bar, and we're definitely the first school in the Commonwealth of Kentucky to get there. To
get to the gold rating.
To get to that gold rating. And so there are several silver and a few bronze schools in Kentucky, but we're in a new class.
What bumped us up? What got us to that gold rating? What did we do better than we have been doing the past few years?
Yeah, so first of all, we launched our first academic program in sustainability this fall. It's an interdisciplinary master's degree program in sustainability, and we're working on launching our bachelor's degree coming very soon as well. So we're expanding the curricular options in sustainability. We have more and more researchers at UofL who are investigating different questions in sustainability. We've now counted up to 174 different scholars at UofL, paid staff and faculty who are researching questions in sustainability. Our engagement team has done incredible work. We've expanded the ways we try and reach people with all of these messages. We've now got a Twitter feed and an Instagram and a blog, and nearly 500,000 hours of documented community service. I mean, that's just incredible. When you add it up, the value of all that to our community is just unbelievable.
Now, that's faculty, staff, and students.
Absolutely.
That's
Everybody
the entire
contributes
UofL
to this.
family.
Absolutely.
The community service.
Yep.
I don't think most folks understand that.
No.
Do you think
Yeah.
people understand that?
No, I mean, we are so embedded in our community here at U of L that we don't even realize how different that is from other schools. And it really is, as an urban university, we have so many opportunities to do that kind of community service. And so much of it, too, is very much focused on these environmental and sustainability questions as well. So that's really exciting to see happening. Other things in operations that we've done to help move the bar up is our support for sustainable transportation. We have so many alternatives provided for people on campus now to get around without their car. Our support for low-impact dining. When the Ville Grill opened and we were able to offer a zero-waste dining option for people, and when we started to demand from our dining contractor that we increase the supply of local food on campus, it's now up to 30% of the food sourced for our dining services is locally sourced. And that's not just great for the planet because it means less carbon emissions, but we're supporting our farmers and our food producers here in this state and this region, and that's really vital.
We're talking with Justin Mogg, who's in charge of the sustainability initiatives at the University of Louisville. What does zero waste dining mean?
That means that you go to the Ville Grill, nothing's going to the landfill because everything in there is reusable, except for the disposable napkins, which are made of 100% recycled content to begin with, and those are going into the same waste stream that any of your food scraps or kitchen scraps are going into, which is a composting system. So we're turning all of that food waste and waste paper napkins into a rich organic fertilizer that can be reused instead of filling our landfills and making methane.
So how green is the University of Louisville?
Well, we've got work to do, but we're
now, gold.
We're now in the top 100. We're in the top 100 greenest schools in the world, which is really incredible. But yeah, I mean, there's still a lot of work that we need to do, and it's important work, and it'll help make the university better. It'll help make the students' experience richer. We need to do things like get more renewable energy on campus. We have a goal of 20% renewable energy. We're only at about 1% with things like our geothermal at our student rec center and some solar hot water heating systems and things like that. But we need to do something big time that'll really get us towards that 20% goal, continue reducing our greenhouse gas emissions. We saw some improvement in the transportation question and how people are getting to campus over the years, but it's actually started to backslide. Certainly with students, they're living closer to campus now. We know that, but employees are, for some reason, living farther away and driving more. So we have got to work on reversing that and setting up the incentives so that people are encouraged to get out of their cars. We certainly are building more. You know that. You see building happening all the time. So staying on top of buildings that aren't going to be energy hogs and that are going to be efficient, and that the buildings themselves will teach people about sustainability. We're building a new academic building on campus soon. The Crawford Gym is going to be torn down, and we're going to put in classroom spaces. Well, what if those classrooms actually taught people about sustainability themselves?
How would you do that? What do you mean?
Well, we have to expose the things that we usually hide, right? Whether it's where the energy is coming from or how it's produced or where the stormwater that hits the roof is going, or what the building materials were used in this building and recycling that happened during the construction phase. All these things add up to a building's carbon footprint and its environmental impact. And it's really important to use the campus itself as a living laboratory.
Okay. Well, Justin Mogg, congratulations to you and everybody
Oh,
at the
it's not
University
just
of
me.
Louisville.
It's a group effort, let me tell you. Thank you, though.
To getting that gold rating from ASHE, and one of 100 schools in the entire world that have gotten that high of a rating.
It's tremendous. I thank everybody here for contributing.
All right, very good. Justin Mogg from the University of Louisville, and who's the head of the sustainability issues and the sustainability initiatives at the University of Louisville. Susan Holman is a senior writer at the Harvard Global Health Institute who holds a PhD in religious studies from Brown University and a Master of Theological Studies from Harvard Divinity School. So when it comes to global health issues and how church-based groups and human rights organizations work together, or in some cases don't work together, she knows what she's talking about. Holman is the winner of UofL's Grawemeyer Award in Religion for 2016 for her ideas and a book titled Beholden: Religion, Global Health, and Human Rights. I interviewed Holman while she was in Louisville with the other Grawemeyer Award winner. She was picking up her $100,000 check for being a winner, also got a medallion for being a Grawemeyer winner, and she made a public talk at UofL. So here's that interview I had with Susan Holman, Grawemeyer Award winner in Religion. So tell us a little bit about how you got interested in this whole field of religion and writing books about how religion fit into the whole world situation and health crisis and those kinds of things.
Well, I grew up in the Lutheran Church, and I was always very interested in religion and history of religion. But in the church I grew up in, women couldn't be ordained, and I was much more interested in books than I was in really preaching. So my parents wanted me to have a real job, and so they pushed me into the sciences. So I found myself in the health sciences and ended up majoring in nutrition. And then after I was finished with school, I started working as a public health nutritionist in inner city Boston for a couple of years. And I felt that what I was doing was really meaningful, and I valued working. I was working with low-income families, and yet at the same time, I got really tired of telling people what to eat all day long, day after day, and realized that the people that I was working with were much more shaped in their food choices and their health choices by their cultural background, their religious beliefs, what their grandmothers had taught them. And it kind of spoke to me in terms of my own interest in religion. So I started reading early Christian history in all my spare time. I mean, it just became something that was a passion. I would go home and just read, and realized that there were these sermons from late antiquity that touched on hunger, disease, poverty, and nobody had really looked at them. The theologians hadn't looked at them because they were very social, and the public health people didn't even know about them because they were religious. So I saw this tension between this sort of divide between these two worlds at that point, and really got to the point where I said, I need to go back and study. I need to go back and really follow my heart, because that's where my heart really is.
And then you got to the point where you wrote this book. Tell us about the book and what your Grawemeyer award-winning idea is. What did you spell out in your book and in your work? Well,
Beholden tells stories, and it is meant to be a creative narrative. It talks about this divide that I mentioned between religion and health. And the fact that I knew from working, because I had continued to work in the healthcare field doing medical editing and writing, and I knew that among physicians, they often don't speak about religion, and among people that I was friends with and in church with who were caring about the poor, they didn't really know a lot about human rights language especially, and I was working in human rights at the time. And I thought there needs to be some kind of, maybe a basic primer to help my faith-based friends actually learn the language about social justice. Well, a lot of them knew social justice language, but human rights language. And something that would also speak to the public health people to realize this dialogue and an appreciation for history has benefits for both sides. And so I thought, well, a basic primer about these things, I could write that. So, so I went back to my office and wrote up a proposal and sent it to my editor, and books are very hard to get published and get accepted. And to my amazement, within a couple of months, I had a contract. She was really excited about the idea. So the book actually evolved from that focus as a primer on human rights to look at different perspectives. There's basically 5 different lenses that people use when they combine religion and health. And one is pilgrimage. So each chapter, each of the book's chapters connect with these ideas. One chapter is on religious pilgrimage, and the idea of much religious pilgrimage is about healing. The second chapter is on civic duty and the importance of civic duty. There's a chapter on human rights, of course. There's a chapter on religious health assets. And then the final chapter is a basic traditional perspective on gift and charity. And it looks at each of these and how their potential for connecting these ideas, and also a lot of the tensions, where the tensions are. And really, it basically says these issues are here. Both of these groups of people work together around the world today. They both have the same goals. They have the same vision. There doesn't need to be this divide. There doesn't need to be a lot of the tensions that we know about. And sometimes it does. There's no tension. Some groups, for the Quakers, for example, it works really well. So, but it basically, the book says that these are there. Let's encourage conversation. And it's because I'm more of a creative writer, I just try to do it through stories.
So what feedback have you gotten from some of these organizations, or from anybody, I suppose, on your work and what you found?
Well, as a writer, I tend to work in solitude. And so I've always been very careful in my writing and conscious of the fact that I'm not a social activist, I'm not political, I'm simply, I'm a writer, I'm an academic, so I'm not out there telling anybody what to do. I'm basically saying this is what I see, and I write to find out what I think. I mean, I write sort of to think through the process. I've been really heartened by students really connecting with these ideas. That's been very, very encouraging, and that's something that I look forward to doing more of in the future.
And those students have said what? What did they say?
It allows them to talk about these issues because the public health students are often, across the river from the religious students, often literally, even in the same universities. And so, and actually, where I'm working now, we're actually encouraging that kind of a dialogue. But people often say, these actually. A student wrote to me the other day, and she said, "Your book really helped me remember that religion mattered when I was doing some volunteer work through her university, through a public health connection." And I was just so heartened by that. So there's these little things that just give me joy.
Well, in a perfect world, what would be the outcome of your work and the work of others, perhaps, to see this, again, my word, divide between religious groups and World Health organizations and do-gooder groups? What would you like to see? I mean, when you're talking about Ebola and the Zika virus and AIDS, all these things going on around the world, what needs to happen in your mind? What would you like to see?
I would like to see more people listening to each other because they're working together already, and I think there needs to be a listening, a perception, a sensitivity, fostering good relations between these groups.
Communication.
Communication,
Talking to each other.
Yeah.
Respecting
the dignity of, and really being aware of the issues. I mean, that's one of the things. One of the other things the Lancet Journal recommended was building core competencies, and that's something that it really struck me because the article came out last summer after the book was done, and I thought this book really, that's many of their recommendations are exactly what I was trying to do in the book. And building core competencies, I think, is one of the things that's vital, and that's why I focus on students, because the book it's really a primer, but there's a lot of references in it, there's a lot of stories in it, and it hopefully will help students think about, because the students are the next generation for public health, for making the changes in the world. And really that's where I think the potential is.
What has the Grawemeyer Award meant to you?
It is an incredible honor. It is an immense responsibility, a sense of how can I pay back with my life for this recognition. It affirms something that I tend to be someone who I'm never sure my ideas are valid, and so it validates these ideas and says that they really matter. So it's really given me permission to be excited about these ideas, I think, in a way that I've never been giving myself permission to do before.
That was Susan Holman, the 2016 Grawemeyer Award winner in religion. So thank you all for joining us. Thanks for listening, and go Cards.